So, welcome everybody. I don't know if you can see or hear me. I hope you can.
Yeah,
Uh, and yeah,
sometimes the feed has a hard time catching up with how many people are in.
For sure.
yeah, yeah. And so, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second Sickest show today. This one is our retake from last week of Conserve and Protect with special guest Joe Walsh. So, good morning, Lawrence, and good morning, Joe. Welcome, and thank you for accepting our invite to come on again.
Hey, good to be with you both. I apologize for the tech fuck up last night or last week. It probably wasn't me, but it could have been me because Trump's people follow what I do. So for all I know, Nick and Lawrence, they fucked us up on purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Last week there were a lot of shows that got just like bloop, bloop, blacked out, and there were some topics I kept hearing about that just kept getting hidden. Yesterday, Lawrence, your live kept getting fucked up, and you were talking about what's going on in Israel.
Yeah. We were talking about Gaza, and for some strange reason, our show kept dropping and blacked out, and we had to cancel the whole thing, just like we did last week with Joe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coincidence, I'm sure.
No, there's shit that goes on. Trump got me banned for life from TikTok 3 weeks ago. Just completely banned without any explanation. So, I mean, they're doing shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk with you a little bit about that too, and
Hmm.
get your opinions on it because you are a staunch supporter of constitutional rights. And you have been a staunch constitutionalist, although I don't agree with all the views that you've had, or still have.
Hmm.
That's fine. I'm not supposed to. Humans don't agree on anything 100% of the time, anyways. If we did, we wouldn't be human. We'd be computers. Um, can you talk a little bit about how you feel about the current environment that's going on? Can you introduce yourself to everyone in the audience? I know a
Yeah.
lot of people know who you are, and I've heard your name or auxiliary know who you are. Um, but I want to get the story of Joe and where Joe came from, what made you change, and why you're doing what you're doing now.
Nick, Lawrence, great to be with you. Everybody else coming in, great to be with you. In a nutshell, I'm the guy who went from the Tea Party to the Democratic Party in 14 fucking years. That is a bizarre journey. I don't know of any other high profile public figure who took that same journey. Most of the never Trumpers, the really well known never Trumpers, they were never part of MAGA. They were never part of the Republican base. I come from the base. I call myself, guys, a reformed MAGA gangbanger. I came from the base. I left the base, was a political independent for 5 years, then joined the Democratic Party 4 months ago. I'm a former Republican congressman, former right-wing media star. I ran for president in 2020. I think Donald Trump is everything our founding fathers feared. I want 3 parties. I want 4 parties. I want 5 parties. I want to blow up our politics. But right now, my former party needs to be defeated because fascism is here. And so I got no fucking patience for people who bitch and moan about other shit. Right now, we're all Democrats. Right now, we got to defeat that threat.
I love that. Thank you for that just clear assessment of or introduction of the threat. We're in fascism. We're in an authoritarian dictatorship that is trying to take over and destroy our democracy. There are things that we won't agree on, but it's okay because we do agree on one thing is the Constitution should remain. Um, and is a good document that keeps us safe and guarantees us freedoms. Um, but
Look,
those freedoms are under attack.
yeah, Nick,
Um,
I get Nick and Lawrence. I've been a Democrat for 3.5 months. And I get beaten up every day by Democrats who say, Joe, you're too pro-Israel. Joe, you're too pro-gun. Joe, you're too anti-tax, whatever. And my response is always yours. Yeah. We're going to disagree on policy right now, but policy doesn't fucking matter right now.
Right.
Our house is burning down. So do you want a big tent that can save our house or not? End of story.
mhm.
what has been the hardest part of of doing this, of jumping kind of with both feet into the Democratic Party? I mean, I know what my answer would be, right? Like, it's a classic Will Rogers. I'm not a part of any organized party. I'm a fucking Democrat. But what has it been like for you?
Well, the two toughest things, Lawrence, have been this. 7.5 years ago, I publicly stood up on the world stage as a conservative Republican, and I said, I oppose him. And the minute I came out against Trump 7.5 years ago, my life instantly changed. I took a blowtorch to my career. I ended my political career. I ended my financial livelihood, and I've put up with daily and weekly threats. No regrets. I would do it again. But that was the toughest moment I've ever been through.
Yeah.
But then to your question, Lawrence, it's been difficult I mean, imagine you two. I mean, I don't know. Again, if anyone who's been a good principled progressive or a Democrat, imagine things so fucked up that you become a Republican. Imagine AOC one day, because her party became an authoritarian embracing cult, AOC became a Republican. That's how bizarre this is. I mean, I like Lawrence, I was never a moderate Republican. I was fucking Tea Party.
Yeah.
And so the most difficult thing about becoming a Democrat is I initially didn't want to, because once I left the Republican Party 5 years ago, I wanted to remain an independent because there are a lot of politically homeless independents out there, and I wanted to help lead a charge with them. But then Trump won in November, and I realized the threat is even greater, so I need to help recruit others to the Democratic Party. Lawrence, I've been embraced by grassroots people generally.
Yep.
The party establishment has been like kind of hands-offish. They just don't fucking get the moment we're living in. So
No,
that's been the hardest part.
Not remotely surprised that Chuck Schumer and those folks don't get that all allies in war are welcome, right?
Bingo.
And we were talking about this a little bit just before with our friend Walter Ryan, was the idea of red state politics versus blue state politics for Democrats, and how the idea of rural America, because I'm from Vermont originally and I live in Arkansas. I'm a rural person. I've always been a rural person. I love rural America. I love the convenience of cities, but I like rural America because it's quiet. But there's a mythos around rural America. One of the things is that we need to be, because they're fed a lie, a lot of structure around patriarchy, and that men have to be on top, and that it's always a competition. And we sort of have to metaphorically punch them in the nose and say, no, we're stronger than you. How do you see what you're doing could help? What do you see that you could be doing to really help us punch them in the nose without the need for the Democratic establishment party? Because they're not going to help us. They're not helping us on this lower level. But how can you help us, or how can we help ourselves?
So in one way, Nick, like, I've always been a son of a bitch. I've always been a fighter. And you guys wouldn't have liked me 8-9 years ago, but I've always been a fighter.
No, I didn't.
Boom!
Yeah.
Lawrence, you'd have pounded me. But my biggest beef about my new party is there just aren't enough fighters. I mean, just fucking fighters. So if I can help show and teach Democrats how to fight, that will all be to the good, because I'm going to stay a fighter. The second thing is, I mean, I made a bet, and I could be wrong when I became a Democrat, that the Democrats understood they need a big fucking tent to win.
Right.
That means a tent big enough for Zoran Mamdani and Joe Walsh. Are you ready for that, Democrats, or not?
Yeah.
And
I am.
Yeah, thank God, Lawrence. Nick, what you said, man, like when Mamdani won the primary, I was asked, do I endorse Mamdani? I said, of course I fucking do. He's the Democratic nominee. Hello. Like, Democrats have forgotten this is a big, diverse country. I'm older than you guys. I remember when I was young, there was this animal called the Southern Democrat.
I remember that too. I'm just old enough to remember.
pro-gun, even, dare I say, pro-life Democrats, baby. And they could win in places like Arkansas and South Carolina. But the National Party forgot all that. And the National Party thought, oh, everybody's got to be a woke progressive. I got nothing against progressives. Progressives don't play in South Carolina or Arkansas necessarily. If I can help recruit other people like me to the party and help show Democrats how to win in rural America and southern states, that will be a huge help.
Yeah. So you come from a grassroots background, right? Like the way that you got involved in Republican politics was grassroots, the Tea Party movement, right at the very beginning. There are folks that are asking in the chat, like, what are we doing beyond talking? Like, what is the doing thing that we can do? And my answer to that would be go fucking be a precinct committee officer in your local Democratic Party and get out there and meet your neighbors and help get Democrats elected to fucking dog catcher, right? Would you say something similar, Joe? Or like, what do you think people can do on the ground to actually just not talk and do something?
Well, yeah, Lawrence, either that, get involved locally in the party or get involved locally with groups outside of the party.
Yeah.
But either way, when I was Tea Party, the Republican Party hated me more than the Democratic Party did. I ran against the establishment.
I remember.
We need, John Boehner hated me. We need anti-establishment people in the Democratic Party. I may be too moderate or conservative for progressives, but I'm anti-establishment. It's what I love about AOC. It's what I love about Mamdani. They are anti-establishment. These are the kinds of Democrats we need to support. But to what you can do, get involved in the local party, get involved with local resistance groups, keep protesting, and we all have circles of influence. Work your circle of influence, because our job number one, if we want to stop Trump and Trumpism, is to take back the House in 26. Nothing's more important than that. Yep. We don't have a Congress right now. So and I think the Senate's going to be tough, but everything should be focused on taking back the House. That means getting involved locally.
So thinking about local, one of the things that I talk about and Lawrence talk about, and we talk about a lot on our different shows, is running for local offices. And Lawrence is talking about that too, and your support of local parties, say over the national party or local organizations. How do you see folks, or how do you see your platform being used to help encourage people in Arkansas who are, or using words in Arkansas that mean things in different contexts? Like, I'm pro-life, you're pro-life, but my meaning of pro-life isn't the same meaning of pro-life that you have. For me, pro-life, and I don't know exactly what your meaning of pro-life is, but my meaning of pro-life is I am pro-personhood, that when you are alive, you have the right to that existence and the dignity of your body and your data and your information and your freedoms, and you should be guaranteed those. And pro-life for me means I want people vaccinated, because Jesus would have advocated for vaccinations, because he said protect and feed and clothe the homeless and the sick and the needy. Do you see using language like that and not throwing it in their faces, but using the words that they know in new ways?
If Democrats don't learn how to do that, Nick, we're not going to beat Trump and the Republican Party. I mean, look at the numbers right now, guys. Trump's approval rating is in the fucking toilet. He's doing horribly. But the Democrats' approval is even worse. And I just saw the latest poll yesterday. Trump, as bad as he is still trusted more on the economy, crime, and immigration. Because these are... Well, how the fuck? But how the fuck, Lawrence, is these are issues Democrats don't know how to fucking talk about. Like, listen to regular people.
Yep.
Democrats have become so fucking elitist. To your point, yes, Nick, Democrats have lost. Like, how the hell did this You watched that press conference yesterday with him and RFK. I mean, Trump again, an hour and a half talking about autism, talking about shit he has no idea about. People will die because of what Donald Trump said yesterday. How the fuck did this guy become president again? Democrats still don't know the how. Democrats still don't understand that they lost connection with regular people where you live, Nick, but not just in rural America. Regular black guys on the south side of Chicago, Democrats lost touch with because they talked about a lot of shit that regular people didn't care about. If they don't start to do this again, they're not going to win, as bad as Trump is.
Yeah. And I'm gonna address something going on in the chat because we like to do that because there's someone who you've been in my chats a lot. You are a subscriber of mine. You seem to be a subscriber across all the bases. But we're not going to be derogatory towards women here. We're not going to tell AOC that she has to fucking cut her hair or take her voice down an octave because that is fucking bullshit and gross. And I can't block you from my phone, but I'm going to kick you out of this chat, Stuart Cohen, for telling women that they need to tone it down because the fuck they do. Women need to tone it up. Women should be toning it up. And that's why I'm fucking out here because my daughter's rights are being stripped the fuck away. Don't tell women to tone it down. And also,
amen.
Don't then accuse my brother Lawrence Winterman of being a MAGA fuck because he certainly is fucking not, Stuart. You are a fucking asshole.
You know,
so all of my friends who are subscribing, unsubscribe from him because he's an asshole. You don't come into my chat. And I said we were going to be respectful in this chat and we were going to talk to people and we're going to use harsh language and truths, but we're not going to come out here and tell women they don't deserve rights and they can't speak for themselves. And you definitely don't tell my brother that he's a MAGA fuck because he sure the fuck ain't.
And by the way, Lawrence, I love that t-shirt, brother.
Thank you, man.
Oh, Stuart, you blocked me. Oh, too bad. Sucks. Can't block you because you already blocked me. Sucks.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Nick. He said that, AOC should cut her hair and lower her voice an octave. Like, come on, man. Like, we don't fucking police women's bodies or voices in 2025. The people who do that are on the other side. And, we're opposing all that bullshit.
And by the way, Nick, to be clear, I stopped calling myself pro-life about 2 years ago because my side always used that phrase as a weapon.
Yeah.
And very effectively. They won that battle. But everybody's pro-life on both sides of the abortion issue. Everybody generally, supports life. So we're all pro-life. So I oppose abortion, but I oppose what these red states are doing where they're outlawing and banning abortions before a woman even knows she's pregnant. So that's just wacky. But I'm pro-life and I'm pro-choice. We all believe in individual choice and we all love life. We disagree on some of the particulars.
See, and that's something I'm so glad you brought up and I didn't have to even probe you about or ask you about on that point is because it was brought up in our chat before or in my early live right before this of how does Joe stand on abortion? He said he's very anti and and I was like, well, Joe might be, but it's a personal opinion. And from what I've heard is your opinion is it has evolved to not be oppressive towards others. It's your opinion.
I oppose Roe v. Wade because I think it was horrible law. I wanted this issue settled by the people. It's going to be settled by the people. And even in red states, eventually, Republicans are going to be hurt by this because even most Republicans are not going to eventually support the extreme banning legislation that's going on in certain red states.
But when it comes down to it, do you support a woman's right to have bodily autonomy and choose what to do with her body?
Up until a point, Lawrence. And again, I'm no fucking expert, but there is a point in a pregnancy and I know it's evolving, where that life, you could yank that life out of the woman's body and that life can survive on its own. Whatever that point is, Lawrence, that's, in my mind, as a libertarian, the state has to protect that life. Whenever that is, the point of viability, whenever that is,
Yeah.
that's where a woman no longer has a choice. The state has to protect that life. But that's, and by the way, that's kind of what Roe eventually got to.
Right. Yes. And right. As Pete Buttigieg eloquently said a couple years ago when asked a similar question, in the vast majority of situations where the fetus, where women are making a decision later in their pregnancy, it is due to a severe medical complication. Like these are babies that are wanted, that names have been picked out, clothes have been bought. It's a devastating diagnosis to get, and so I just want to acknowledge that when people talk about not just viability, but the late stage stuff, like those are catastrophic medical situations, right?
No, agreed. In the vast majority of cases, you are correct. Not all, but in the vast majority. And as we all know, the vast majority of abortions in this country happen well before you ever get there.
Right.
Yeah. And I want to address too in the chat, like, yes, there are three men talking about women's rights on a screen right now. And we're all talking about women deserve rights and autonomy and protections. And we're not saying that women don't have rights. And I'm glad people are putting opinions in, but let's listen to the whole context, please. Because we are important about context here and the why. Why we're talking about this isn't because we want to ban abortions or any of that shit. We're talking about this because you guys asked us to get Joe's thoughts and understand where Joe comes from. So let's please also take into consideration that we're answering your questions and we're answering things that other people want to know about on Joe's opinions.
And the other thing
is for Joe and for us to learn.
And the other thing I'd say, Nick, is like somebody said, stay in your lane. Look at a man can have an opinion on abortion. I've never served in the military. I can have an opinion on war. Let's stop that bullshit, right? We all can have respectful opinions. The final point I'll make on this issue, though, guys, and maybe you disagree with me, I think the Democratic Party should be big enough to embrace. Like, I no longer call myself pro-life. We're all pro-life, but embrace pro-life and pro-choice Democrats to win. I don't think there should be an issue that says if you believe in that policy issue, you can't be a Democrat. I personally think that's a mistake for my new party, but the same thing on guns. I'm a huge gun rights guy. I think the only litmus test for Democrats right now should be if you support democracy, the rule of law, the Constitution, pluralism, and basic human decency, I want to be in your tent. But I know some folks disagree with me on that.
Yeah, and we want to push back on what you're telling us. We want to ask you the why. And I'm not calling out individuals in the chat. No, but I didn't say anybody's name this time around because I know nobody is individually being a shithead like Stuart Cohen was. I'm talking that I appreciate the comments and the way that it came out, the way that it was perceived, which is part of the problem is we're perceiving comments without seeing your faces, without hearing the emotion behind them. You guys get to see us respond to that. And my perceived notion was that it was directed at us in a negative way. We're trying to talk about these issues because they're important to us too, because we do have opinions. My opinion is that women deserve the respect to have bodily autonomy, and life is precious, and we should find a way to respect women's bodily autonomy and ensure that life remains precious, so that we're not killing women and we're not killing babies. But like Lawrence also said, and like I also know, is that most, like 99.99% of abortions, plus a couple extra nines, when they're in late stage third trimester, it's a catastrophic incident. And it's not something that the woman or family wants. Like, those don't happen. And if they do, that's a choice that the doctor and that woman have made. And we also kind of, I mean, it's a hard choice to make, and it's where that line comes in on what is life. And as a former Jewish person, or as a Jewish, someone raised Jewish, life is at birth. Because when you take your first breath is when you, out of the womb is when you become alive, is when your soul enters you and you become unique individual. So for me, that means they have to be born. But I'm not saying Joe has to believe that or Lawrence
Mhm.
has to believe that. And that's where shades of opinion come in. So, Joe, taking on that, what do you think on the thoughts that I just said? Because I think life starts when you're born.
I've always believed that a life begins at conception. And again, look, I'm generally very libertarian in my politics. I believe in freedom, individual freedom. And Joe, right, abortion. And I get nailed on this issue sometimes, rightly, but what makes this issue complicated, and I'm speaking the best of all sides, what makes this a complicated issue is we're talking about another potential life, the freedom of another potential life. That's why this is such a difficult issue. I understand there are people with bad intentions on all sides on this issue. I want to believe that most people on both sides of this issue have the best of intentions. This is really complicated because you're talking about two lives, potentially two individual freedoms. And I wrestle with it, guys. Like, again, I go back to my stupid generality. There's a point in that pregnancy where you can pull that life out and that life can be saved on its own because of the technology we've got today. The state has to save that life then, in my mind. I get it, but this is what we wrestle with. But Nick, I respect your view, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So thanks
the,
for being here, and thanks for being willing to talk about, challenging issues.
You know what pisses me off, Lawrence? I get so pissed off at people who are afraid to talk about tough issues and just answer good, tough questions.
Yeah. So since we're already all a little uncomfortable, let's talk
Fire
about
away,
Gaza
you
and Israel.
son of a bitch.
So Gaza, I know you're a staunch supporter of Israel, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and there are a lot of us, like myself and like Nick, both of us are of Jewish heritage, really struggling with the idea that it looks like, I mean, I'll say it because I'm comfortable with these words. There's a genocide going on in Gaza that Israel's perpetrating, and I'm curious, kind of, what is your position? How can you be a strong? And I'm not asking, like, why are you? I'm just saying, like, it is hard to be a supporter of Israel and also look at what they're doing in the current
So,
moment and square that circle, right?
so Lawrence, that's a great question, man. It's not hard for me, but I respect that it is hard for a lot of Israel supporters. I'm not Jewish. I've always been hugely pro-Israel. I'm a Roman Catholic kid for some religious reasons. I'm not evangelical, but mostly just philosophical and political. I'm married to a lovely Jewish woman. Uh, I get that a lot of American Jews are in pain right now because of what they think they see or believe Israel is doing. Let me be clear about a couple things. I can't stand Benjamin Netanyahu. Cannot freaking stand. 2 weeks after October 7th, 2 weeks, I publicly call for him to step down. The world would be a better place. Israel would be better if Bibi had stepped down right after 9/11, right after October 7th, because he's a flawed figure that is rightly hated by too many people because he's been there for too damn long. He's beholden to his right wing and he's corrupt. So put Bibi aside. To me, again, and this is a great, Lawrence, I love this issue. Not at all a genocide in my mind. If it were a genocide, Gaza would have been turned into a parking lot almost 2 years ago. Israel could wipe out Gaza in a matter of weeks if they wanted to. I think Israel's done, I'm not talking about Netanyahu, Israel's done whatever they can in a very difficult circumstance to get their hostages back and eliminate Hamas. They are fighting an entity that wants their people killed. And I don't think the average American has any clue as to how difficult it is to fight an entity that values death like that. Final thing I'll say, big picture, there will never be peace in the Middle East, ever. There'll never be a two-state solution, ever, until one side, in my opinion, Lawrence, the Palestinian side, agrees that Israel has a right to exist. If the Palestinian side had just said that, like Israel, you can exist, there'd have been peace years ago. But the Palestinian side, Islamists, are hell-bent on destroying Israel. And now we've gotten to a point where Israel, the last 10 to 15 years, has said, fuck it. Now maybe we should just destroy them. So now we're in a very bad place. I hope some of that made sense.
I'm not sure maybe that we're going to come to a place of agreement on this, because to me, I see a genocide occurring in Gaza, and I'm not sure there's anything that anyone could say that would convince me otherwise at this point. And I absolutely hear what you're saying, that Hamas and Palestinian leadership could acknowledge that Israel has a right to exist. I certainly believe that Israel has a right to exist. But I also look at Netanyahu's government, and I mean, I've hated Netanyahu since the assassination of Rabin, when it looked like Netanyahu was angling to become prime minister of Israel, and then, of course, did, basically riding on the wave of anti-two-state solutionism, right? He's literally put policies in place that subdivide the West Bank in such a way that you cannot draw a contiguous border in any way around settlements. I guess my perspective at this point is neither side is operating it. The leadership of neither side is operating in good faith.
But Lawrence, let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
Again, kind of the formal definition of a genocide, the purposeful, with intent, destruction of a people. You do acknowledge that if Israel wanted to purposely wipe out, destroy the Palestinian people in Gaza, they had the power to do that, right?
Joe, I mean, if we're talking about, could they
just raw power,
bunker busters or nukes, intent is absolutely clear in policy and the execution of policy in Gaza. And what we are seeing is the starvation and the withholding of aid and the, consistent targeting of women and children in Gaza, which, doesn't meet the technical definition of genocide. Forgive me, sir. I just think hiding behind technicalities in terms of definition of genocide doesn't cut it in this situation. What we're seeing is a massacre and a mass slaughter of people.
I appreciate that point. I think this technicality does matter only in this respect. The intent is everything when it comes to genocide. And again, I go back to it. If it was Israel's intent to wipe out the Palestinians, they would have done it. They could have done it. And I just think, not you, Lawrence, because I know you're knowledgeable about this, the average person in the West does not understand the enemy that Israel's been fighting forever, a side that just doesn't value life. And in Gaza for almost 20 years, we've had Hamas, and their entire strategy for 20 years has been to get their civilians killed. Why? To get world opinion to turn against Israel. I mean, that's been their entire playbook. They want their civilians killed more than Israel does, I think. But I'll give you the final word on that one, brother.
I think, Joe, I really like you, man, and I appreciate you being here. I'm not sure that we're going to see eye to eye on this one.
That's cool, though. That's cool.
In the Jewish tradition, there's this idea called tikkun olam, right? That it is our job in the world to repair the world. And I just don't see what Netanyahu and Israel are doing in Gaza as doing anything to repair a broken situation.
Hey, brother, my big Jewish brother, take Netanyahu out of the equation. October 7th happens.
Right.
What
A
should
horror,
Israel
right?
do?
And I think in that moment, Israel could have, in that moment after October 7th, which was absolutely a horrific act, and Israel absolutely had the right to respond with strength and with power in that situation. I would never deny that. I think in that moment, Israel had the world on its side. And if it had created a coalition to go in and remove Hamas from power and to liberate the Palestinian people so that they could self-determine a government other than Hamas. And I know what you're going to say. They voted Hamas into office.
No.
But if in that moment Israel had done the bigger thing and created a coalition of powers to help liberate the Palestinian people from the oppression under Hamas, that could have gotten us a different situation than what we're facing today.
Who? And my response would be, who would that coalition have been? And my other response would have been, you're talking about 17 to 18 years of Hamas fortifying an urban area, turning it into a terrorist compound with some thousand miles of tunnels. To just say that we're going to form a coalition and dance on into Gaza and try to gently nudge Hamas out of power, I don't know how the fuck you do that.
Yeah, I didn't say gently, and I didn't say dance. Would
then how do you do it? How do you do it?
It would be really fucking hard, right? And but I think if you had gotten the U.S. and France and the U.K. and
oh no, I loved you, man. If I were with you right now, I'd slap you upside the head. No freaking way. Here in the U.S., I mean, Biden pro-Israel. No way would the U.S. have agreed we're going to join a coalition, send American troops on into there. And if we wouldn't have done that, no way France or the U.K. or any European country.
It would have been nice if they had tried, right?
I think another thing we could have done was prosecuted Bibi Netanyahu ahead of time, and forced Israel to continue that prosecution. I think from my from my side and my view on this is I think Israel had the right to respond after 10/7 and should have done so in a much more targeted way and not such a sustained long effort. And I think the reason they have been doing it so slowly and destroying Gaza so slowly is because they needed to see what would happen in the US. They needed to see whether the US would have a Democratic president or Trump. And I think Trump changed the equation because he won't put any pressure on BB to stop unless there's certain like pictures or things that he sees. Because for some reason, Trump sees pictures and hears about kids. There's an instant connection that he always goes to with kids. And I don't think it's because it's a good thing. But he sees starving kids and it makes him upset. But I don't think he sees it in the same way that either that Vice President Harris would have seen it, or that even Biden saw it. But we have the power in the U.S. to tell them to not target journalists. We have the power in the U.S. to force them to not flatten the entirety of Gaza, and have plans afterwards with Trump hotels and luxury resorts and man-made islands and things coming out about MBS wanting to do the same thing in Gaza. Like there's a coordinated effort behind the scenes for land grab and purchase, and Elon Musk wants to have a tech zone in what used to be Gaza. So I think it is a genocide because they're purposely systematically killing the Palestinians to clear out land for a billionaire playground and wipe them off the map. I don't know if they're going to do the same thing in the West Bank or as violently yet, but I think Gaza is going to become a terrible place protected by Israel outside of international law.
Their goal, and maybe it was mission impossible, guys, from the beginning, was to eradicate Hamas. And I just, no one's ever shown me a targeted way that you can get rid of an urban army like that. I have not seen it in 2 years. Can't be done. And talk about then going longer. I think Israel has delayed too long. I think they should have moved faster. I think Biden and the U.S. held them up a little bit. But you can't get rid of Hamas in some targeted fashion. You have to literally go in and try to remove this army, this terrorist organization that has embedded itself in an urban civilian population for almost 20 years. That's tough stuff.
What
Yeah,
do you think? What do you think proper next action is? Like if you were in a place where you could influence decision making or be the decision maker, what would you do?
I would, again, a great question, Lawrence, and not exactly knowing on what the situation is on the ground right now.
Sure. Yeah.
But if I had Netanyahu's ear, I'd kick Netanyahu out immediately. And then whoever was in charge of Israel, I would immediately now allude to that coalition you talked about. And I would grab the moderate Arab nations in the region, along with some help from the U.S. and the rest of the West, to now go into Gaza, because now I think Hamas has been damaged enough, and now go into Gaza and begin to try to rebuild Gaza. And I think beginning to rebuild Gaza, you can pretty much, I think, begin to almost eliminate Hamas. I don't think that was possible immediately after 10/7. The only way you're going to get peace in the Middle East is if moderate Arab countries partner with Israel. Because the threat in the Middle East is Islamism, not Islam, but Islamism, radical Islam. So the only way you ever get peace in that region is if moderate Muslims become allies with Israel and you target the radical Islamists, of which Hamas is just one entity. I think that could be done right now.
Gaza as a homeland for the Palestinians, or Gaza as casinos?
Well, first of all, Lawrence, forget about Trump and Trump casinos. I and I've written about this for 12 years, and until I'm proven wrong, I just don't think. I think the whole notion of a two-state solution is poppycock. As long as one of those neighbors, and as bad as you think Israel might be or Netanyahu is, they're not Hamas. And from the very beginning of this conflict, I mean, the history of this conflict is in 1948, right? The colonial rest of the world said, okay, let's carve it up 2 states. Okay, give Israel a homeland. Now, maybe you can say that was flawed from the beginning, but that decision was made at the beginning. And immediately at the beginning, one side went to war and said, fuck no. In the 70-year history of the conflict has been the one side always initiating war against Israel. Israel responds. Why is that? Because the one side, guys, from the very beginning has been pissed off that Israel was ever given a slice of anything. They do not believe Israel has a right to exist. You can fucking carve up that area of the world however you want. But as long as a people believe that, you'll never have fucking peace. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I do, Joe. Absolutely. And, being
I
raised
love
Jewish.
this issue. I love this issue.
Being raised Jewish, one of the things that I was taught in Hebrew school when I was a kid was that, Israel demonstrated its military superiority in 67, right? Like the land was captured, the Sinai was captured, Gaza and the West Bank were captured because the plan was trade land for peace. And that worked with Sinai and Egypt, right? That's Sadat and Menachem Begin, and the intent, what I was told as a kid, was Gaza and the West Bank can be traded to Palestinian people for Palestinian state. And then that fell apart, in part because of Rabin's assassination, because Netanyahu led a coalition of people pushing back
Yeah, but you're
against the
down,
two-state solution.
Lawrence, my big bearded Jewish brother. You're down in the fucking weeds. You're down in the weeds. Just acknowledge with me that the history of the region has been Israel, you get this. Palestinian people, you get this. Now, maybe that was a stupid thing for the UN to do from the beginning, but they did it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But they
no.
did it. And the Palestinian people then, for 70 years, have initiated all of the wars against Israel. Israel has fought back, generally won the wars, and taken land and then given a lot of the land back. If the one side would just quit initiating war, like I go back, guys, we could talk about this for 5 fucking hours.
Yeah.
I agree with what Golda Meir said. If the Palestinian people laid down their arms tomorrow, there'd be peace tomorrow. If Israel laid down her arms tomorrow, there'd be no Israel. I've always believed that. The one neighbor needs to change their mind. So unless that happens, Lawrence, no freaking way would I give the Palestinian people Gaza and or the West Bank. If I'm Israel, I don't want to live to neighbors, next door to neighbors who don't believe I have a right to exist.
I agree with you on all of that, Joe. And I just think that America has, no, here's the thing. America has, for decades now, had the ability, the power and the sway in the region to cajole and push those Middle Eastern countries to the table. Hamas is funded by Iran and other partners in the Middle East. Like we could have done more to push the Palestinian people to the table.
Oh, totally agree. I will say though, in 92, whatever, Oslo, Clinton, what's his name? Arafat got like 94, 95% of what he wanted, and he didn't take it. Would have been a much different world if,
dude,
right?
Here's the thing. You and I will agree 100% on this. The person who torched Oslo was Arafat. He walked away.
I am back in love. Let the record show I'm back in love with Lawrence. I am back in love with Lawrence.
Arafat did, because he knew he would be assassinated by his own people. You are completely right. Arafat walked away from Oslo.
Walked away.
Even though he got like 95% of what he wanted, which is terrible negotiating on his part. I just, in this moment, what I'm looking at is the lay of the land right now, and the facts on the ground to me are that there's something that could easily be called a genocide that is happening to the Palestinian people right now. And the things that you have argued are not inherently wrong. I just want us to acknowledge that people are fucking dying. And I think that we could be doing more as a world and as a people.
Agree with all of that, Lawrence. And I will say, to cap this issue, you two, as a new Democrat, and by the way, your whole audience here agrees with you two completely. And you know what's cool, guys, is this issue of Israel and my support for Israel, I have found nothing angers my new Democratic friends more than this issue. So this is an issue that the Democratic Party is really struggling with.
Well, and I think for us to unite as a party and to kind of think about how we go forward in this two-party system that we're in, we got to think about the way that the majority of Democrats feel, the way that younger generations feel who may not have solidified their party affiliation yet. Can we build a big tent that is big enough to handle the position you've just articulated and the position of the grassroots of the party?
Well, we better.
Right. We better, for American democracy, we better do that.
Yeah, we better say you can't be a pro-Israel Democrat and get elected, or you can't be a pro-whatever. We better rise above that and say that's an issue we disagree on. But again, Joe Walsh, conservative Democrat, no way on God's green earth could I get elected mayor of New York City. Zoran Mamdani, hard, sincere, progressive Democrat. No way could he go down to Arkansas and get elected to anything down there. So the Democratic Party needs to understand that this is a diverse country. We need to elect Democrats in red states and blue states.
Right. So you're a Chicago guy, right?
Suburban Chicago.
Okay. So, I mean, you going to run for something this time?
Oh, I won't give you, Lawrence, the typical BS politician's answer. I'd love to run for something. I really would. Now, I didn't become a Democrat so I could run. That's not why I became a Democrat. But Lawrence, I'm not going to BS you. I'd love to run. I'd love to run somewhere. I'd love to run in a southern state, Nick, or a rural area where I could show rural southern Democrats how to win. I just don't know that I could win a Democratic primary. We just talked about one issue, Israel. I mean, that issue alone could nail me in a Democratic primary.
Sure.
So I don't know, Lawrence, if I could win a primary, but I'd love to run.
And I think one of the important things about what we did today, and I was listening to a show earlier this morning, they were talking about it, is we had a discussion and not really a debate. I'm not, at least from my side, I'm not trying to change Joe's mind. But we are trying to see a middle ground, somewhere that we all value that we can have a discussion from. Like, we're discussing ideas so that we can talk about this. Yeah, I don't agree with Joe on all of these shows. Joe, I really appreciate you coming in and talking to us.
By the way, Nick,
yeah,
if I were with you right now, I'd fucking kiss you on your forehead. I'd give you a big old man kiss. I loved what you just said. Because I don't do debates anymore. I'll go on Pierce Morgan and I'll go on some of these other shows. I'm miserable. I hate it. I used to do a lot of that shit. We've got to have conversations. I think you know this about me. Charlie Kirk, back in the day, was like a son to me. I met him when he was 16. I helped him get started. But then Trump, we went our separate ways. Charlie Kirk didn't have conversations. He did these gotcha kind of things on college campuses. What we got to do is what the three of us did right here. We had a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I want to encourage. And Joe, if you're willing to come back at some point, I'd love to have you again.
Not if Lawrence is here. There's no fucking way I'm coming back.
Hey,
what we'll do is we'll get this guy. Our mensch on a bench over there is kicking ass and asking hard questions.
I love it.
And Shana Tova to your family as well tonight.
Right back
for the
at you.
Holidays. There's a lot to remember this year and a lot to think about. And I think, Lawrence, you talked about it a little bit last week, was like, you didn't know if you were going to celebrate the holidays. Well, I'm not religious Jewish. I am culturally Jewish. And I'm going to celebrate in my own way this year in ways that I haven't, because there's a lot to remember and a lot to talk about and discuss and bring out and form opinions and coalitions off of. And I need to remember that too.
Are you two in the same geographic area?
I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Oh, okay. And Nick,
I'm
in Arkansas.
Yeah, I'm in the Northwest Arkansas area.
Sometime soon, the three of us need to get together and have some drinks together, man. You find me some tequila, I'll go wherever you two are.
Absolutely.
And Lawrence, I want to continue this conversation privately on Israel and Gaza because I think it's so important. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, no, thank you. Joe, I hope you know that if I was pressing you and trying to hold your feet to the fire a little bit, it's only because, one, I know you can handle it, and two, I want us to have conversations like this, and I think we need to model and thanks to the chat, because we're getting some props in the chat for having a conversation, where we can disagree without being disagreeable, as the saying goes.
Amen. And let the record show, I think everybody who listened to us loved that we did that. And everybody who listened to us agrees with you two on Israel. But it's okay. We had a conversation.
Yeah. All right, Joe. So we're right at the top of the hour. And I want to be able to let you go. Where can people find you? How can they support your work? How can they support what you're doing? And how can we encourage you to come to Arkansas and Indiana and other red states to support us?
Well, that's easy. I'm actually beginning to do some speaking in Red America for Democratic candidates. So Nick, let you and I stay in touch.
Okay.
All I
Awesome.
need is an invitation and a bottle of tequila, and I'll talk to folks.
I got you.
Everybody, Nick and Lawrence, everybody listening to us, if you're a subscriber to Joe Walsh, damn it, subscribe to Nick. Subscribe to everybody. Subscribe to Nick and Lawrence as well on
Thanks,
Substack. Social Contract with Joe Walsh is my Substack. On every other social media, I'm Walsh Freedom. It's been an honor, gents.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Lawrence, thank you for the tough questions too. Everybody in the audience, thank you so much. We'll talk to Joe again soon. Let's stop being sick of this shit and let's start doing this shit. And Joe,
Amen.
we'll find you some good tequila in the area.
Yeah.
Thanks, boys. Amen,
and
guys.
we'll talk to you again
Thanks,
soon.
guys. Take
Thanks,
care.
Joe.
Bye-bye.
Bye, all.